calendars, color code, use technology, use the alarms, make your life easier. Don't feel that you're on a rush all the time. Work backwards from that appointment time. Look at the day and work backwards. Give yourself the allotted time to not rush. It's not good for you. It causes too much stress. And as caretakers and mothers and wives, stress is one of the biggest proponents when it comes to your own self-health problems. There are studies on it. It shows what stress can do to your health.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexie Callies. Do you feel the squeeze of caring for an elderly loved one and school-aged children? Then welcome to the Sandwich Stories. Let's dig in.
Hiya! Hi everybody, it's Lexie Callies with Sandwich Stories, and we're going to talk about scheduling. Scheduling is a very important part of my life and a lot of mothers that I know and caretakers. I schedule my life not to the nth degree, but many things in my life are scheduled because I have to schedule myself, my son, my husband, family as a whole, and my mom. So 5 things. Most of the time, it's my son and my mother who take up most of the schedule. My husband has his own, but he's at the office most of the day, and his things he schedules are either doctor's appointments in the middle of the day that have nothing to do with me, unless I have to be on the phone as an advocate, which we've talked about, or he wants to go out with his friends for happy hour like 1 or 2 nights a month. They're all busy, so that works for him. But yet again, we put it on the schedule and our calendars. I have 2 calendars that have worked for me. I have one for the family that is a whiteboard. I put it on the door to the garage that you must look at every single time you leave the house. You see the calendar. And then I also have one on my phone, which I use on a daily basis. Everybody, whether it's the whiteboard or my phone, is color-coded. At home, we have purple for me, blue for my son, orange for my husband, magenta for the family. Then on my calendar on my phone is purple for me, green for my son, magenta for the family, orange for my husband, and pink for my mother. I have learned that this helps me tremendously. Having everybody color-coded makes it so easy for me to just glance at a calendar, find the color that I'm looking for, and I'm able to quickly see who, what, and where, and when someone is supposed to be someplace. I learned this many years back when I used just a regular paper day planner when I owned a nanny service. I was a day nanny for many people for many, many years, and that meant that I didn't always work for one family all the time. As a day nanny, I could have a family that was just the morning. They needed me from 7 in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I would leave, grab something to eat, and go get in the pickup line for another family at school, and I would get their kids from 2:30 until 6. Then, depending on the day, I might have someone who wanted a date night, or there was something special going on at the school and they needed someone to watch their little ones. I would then be able to go to someone else's house in the evening. And every family I ever worked for had their own color in my calendar. Yet again, I could look at the calendar really quickly, say, oh, blue, I'm at the Smiths, green, I'm at the Joneses, and so on. There were times, especially during Christmas, and I was not married, I did not have kids, I could work, 70 hours a week. I did one year. I looked at the month of December, and 3 weeks of the month, I worked 70-hour weeks because of all the holiday parties, everything going on with all the families I ever worked for. So color coding became part of my life. And now I use color coding every single day of my life, whether it's in my phone calendar or on the calendar on the whiteboard at my house. Now, my son has his schedule. He has a school schedule, so things that are required for school go in the calendar the minute the school calendar comes out. I fill out the whole entire year, so days off, half days, band events, you name it, it went into the calendar the moment it came out, because that way I don't have to wonder or worry or forget something that has to do with school. Then my son's swim team just changed their schedule literally 3 weeks ago. He was originally on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday morning schedule for an hour each day. Then they changed so that he is now Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So he's there 5 days a week in the evenings, 6:30 to 7:30. It's a lot. He has private Spanish lessons, and he also does piano lessons. These are all on the calendar. They're all scheduled. So then I have to schedule my mother's appointments during the day, knowing that I have to get my son at 3:30 from school. My mom is not the best in the morning, so we can't always do an 8 o'clock doctor's appointment. I really try hard not to schedule those because she's just not up and going yet. Her meds really aren't in her system yet, and it just makes life super hard for me and for her and for the caretakers that are assisted living, which means during the week, I have between 9 o'clock in the morning and I want to be done, have her back at her assisted living by 2:30. That is my time frame. When I schedule her and all her appointments, I always work backwards from the amount of time that I will need when I know I have to pick her up. So today, let's say she had an appointment at 11 o'clock. I know she has to be at the doctor's at 11, which means in my book, you're a little early. I try to be early for everything because I don't want any snafus if something should come up, whether it's traffic, a venue change, whatever it might be. That can be built into the time if I know I'm at least 10 or 5 to 10 minutes early. So let's say she has an appointment at 11 o'clock. I want her there around 10:50, 10:55. So I work backwards from there. I must pick her up and start getting her in the car no later than 10:30. Because if she has to go to the bathroom before we leave, all these things have to be factored in to the time before we have to be at the doctor's appointment. Then I know if I'm leaving from my house, which is a good 15 minutes away, I have to leave at 10:15, which means I need to be wrapped up, getting ready to go between 10 and 10:15. So I know 11 o'clock appointment means that I must be ready to go between 10 and 10:15. That is how I schedule my life. I also do this with my son. Practice starts at 6:30, which means he has to be in the car no later than 6:15 to be able to get down to the road and be to practice on time, which means 5 minutes early in my book. So practice means you're in the water at 6:30. It does not mean you're walking in the door at 6:30. So I always work backwards. This has helped me a lot too because it really does allow me to have the time and not have to stress out, worry, just the stress of thinking you're not going to get somewhere on time, that you're going to be late, because I really truly believe that my time is no more valuable than anybody else's time. We are all the same. So I need to give those people the same respect I would expect of them. Now, scheduling also does not mean that you have to stick to it 100%. For example, my son has practice on Mondays for swim team. I've said this. He also has Boy Scouts on Monday. Boy Scouts just started for the season, for the year, so that was a very important meeting he had to go to. He came home that day from school saying he had 2 big projects that were due in the next 2 days. That is very important. That is more important than swim team practice. So I looked to see what he had to do. Knowing what was also scheduled for Tuesday, I told him there is no swim team Monday. We are not doing it today. Nope. Swim team is not more important than school. So I emailed his coach. I said, I am so sorry. This is last minute, but this came home from school. This is very important that we get this done and that we will see you tomorrow at practice at 6:30. My son looked at me and he said, no, I can do it. I can do it. I can get it all done. I can go to practice. I can do this. And I told him no. So being able to say no to something, knowing that it is not more important than something else that came up last minute, that is super important to recognize. If something came up that is really important, you need to let something go. Being overscheduled for our kids, we all know is not great. That is why I try to make sure our son only has, originally it was only supposed to be 1 thing a day. Now we have looked the fact that he has some days with 2 things on the same day, 2 events on the same day. Wednesdays are his day off in the middle of the week, so that gives him a respite. And then he also gets the weekend. I also find that, and I 100% believe that sleep hygiene is so important for everybody, not just children, for everybody. My son is 12 years old. He needs 9 hours of sleep. So I factor that into the schedule. I'm not going to allow my son to work on homework till 9, 10, 11. That's not happening. That's a no. It's a hard no in my book. That is just not happening. So he is in bed by 9 o'clock. That is his lights out time because he's going to get up at 6:30. He needs to be able to get the sleep to be able to perform at school properly and not be exhausted. This also means that we have to schedule dinner by a certain time also. If swim team is at 6:30, our schedule has switched. My son is okay with it. My husband is getting used to it. He doesn't love that my son has to eat dinner around 5:30. I try to make it a good meal. We can't always eat together, which is not great, but I am always there with my son. Or Mondays and Fridays, my husband works from home, and so he's able to sit with our son during the Monday and Friday meals also. But my son eats dinner at 5:30. He goes to practice. He comes home and then has a smaller meal like a protein shake or something like that so that he's able to replenish the calories he's lost, but also not go to bed hungry because he will be going to bed and he can have breakfast the next day. We're not going to eat dinner at 8:30, 9 o'clock. It's not happening. It's not good for your health. It's best to eat earlier, let your body digest it, and then move on to bed. You'll have a great night's sleep. Well, maybe not great, but a better night's sleep. So scheduling is also not a hard and fast. You have to know when to give in and to say something has to fall off the schedule today because something is more important. Also, you have to be willing to say that something on the schedule is really important and that even if another opportunity arises to maybe get a better appointment time or a doctor's appointment popped up and you have one scheduled later down the line, but a cancellation came and they called you and they said, hey, we've got this availability to come earlier. Would you like it? Sometimes that's great. Sometimes you can say, yes, I would love that appointment. Let me get it on the calendar. Otherwise, maybe the answer is thank you, but that's not going to work for us. We will see you at our original appointment. This happened to me. My mother had PT today at noon. It was already scheduled, but a month before, I had scheduled a facial for myself at 10 o'clock today. The physical therapist came to me and said, "Hey, I know your mom's blood pressure medication starts to wane and starts to wear off between 12 and 1. Would you like to come earlier in that day? Let's look to see what I have." And I said, "Fine, let's see what you have." I said, "Is there an 11 o'clock?" She said, "No, I have a 10 o'clock. Well, my facial was scheduled at 10 o'clock. I chose to say no. I chose to say, you know what? We're going to go at noon for PT because the time I scheduled for myself was important. That time to be there, to have a facial, to take the time for myself, to relax, whatever it is, was so important to me because, like I've said in the past, giving myself that time makes me a better caretaker to my husband, my son, and my mom. I'd already done 2 appointments earlier this week with my mom. This is the third one I was going to do with her. And sometimes we get on each other's nerves. And so to be able to have that time to myself and just relax and go to see her in a really good, relaxed mood and state was really important. That's good for both of us because if she's having a tough day, then I can maybe be a little more go with the flow and see what's going on, or maybe not be so on edge and get snippy, because that has happened before. And I've learned that if I start to feel that way, I need to walk away from her because that's not fair to her and it's not fair to me. So you got to say no. Sometimes you have to say no. Now, like I said, we have in my household a whiteboard calendar, and I personally have my own calendar on my phone. My husband has his own calendar. We don't share a calendar. That is one thing we do not do because otherwise my calendar would be full of all of his work meetings and that would just clutter my system. So he has his own calendar, but he does write his appointments on the whiteboard, which, like I've said, he's learning to do. It's not second nature to him, but he is getting better at it. He grabs his orange marker, he writes his appointments on the calendar. That way I know what's going on, whether I need to be there. Now, this is the thing. I know when he has doctor's appointments. And as I've said in a previous episode, being an advocate is very important. So if I know he has an appointment at a doctor's office at 9 o'clock in the morning, I know I can be available via phone to be his advocate and listen in on the doctor's appointment. So, had he not put it on the whiteboard, I wouldn't know it happened. He would just say, "I have a doctor's appointment." Or he would tell me later, "Hey, I went and saw this doctor today." And then I would look at him and say, "Why didn't you put it on the calendar? I would have been there on the phone to know what was going on so I could advocate for you if need be." And so now he's getting better about it. It's becoming, like I said, it's not second nature, but he's getting better. My son is also learning. He knows his color is blue, so he looks on the calendar. "Oh, I have swim team. Oh, I have this. Oh, I have a band concert coming up for school." So he knows what's going on. Swim meets, all those kinds of things. This allows him to know what is coming up in his own personal life outside of school so that he can learn to properly use his time at school when he's allowed to work on homework, and how to make his life easier on the weekends, because if he's got a couple projects coming, he doesn't want to leave them till the last minute. And if he's able to see he has a swim meet or a birthday party or whatever it is, he's able to start to learn to schedule and how to use his time more wisely. And these are just skills we're trying to instill in him now, because these are things that some people don't learn until they're adults, and then it's just harder to learn. So we find that it's best that he learns it now and it's easier. Now, I don't use, there we go, right there. I was going to say alarms. So it is 2:50. My alarm just went off saying, "Hey, it's almost time to do school pickup." This is what I was going to say. Alarms are my friend. I set alarms for everything, right? Just like you heard it. My alarm was going off 2:50. School gets out at 3:30. This gives me some time to know that I need to start to finish things up, whether that's working with my mom, a personal appointment, whatever it might be, because then I'm able to get there to get my son from school. I use alarms for everything. My alarms are my lifesaver sometimes, because there have been times in the past when I forgot about an appointment and the alarm on my calendar goes off and it gives me 30 minutes warning to say, hey, you have this appointment. And I'm able to get there on time because the calendar reminded me. So, alarms. I was going to say, what works best for you? Alarms work for me. It's not a jarring alarm. It's nice and quiet and soothing, but it does get my attention and I'm able to know what's going on. I don't use Alexa or Google, but if you do, use it to your advantage. You put your calendar in there, set those alarms, have Alexa, have your Google, whatever it is, remind you what's going on. Make the technology work for you. Don't stress out about it. Scheduling is important, but also scheduling off time is sometimes important too. I know it sounds really weird and not everybody thinks about it, but if you're the kind of person that feels like you're on the go all the time and you never have downtime, put it in your calendar for downtime. Schedule yourself downtime. Whatever it is for you. What do you love? Do you love, like me, I've said it 1,000 times, I love a facial. I love it. It's relaxing. I think it's great. Is it sitting down to read your favorite book? Is it sitting in the backyard just soaking up some sun? Is it, I don't know, whatever it could be, having a cup of tea, having lunch with your husband? If these things are things you want to do, but you always feel that you're on the go and you don't know how to get it in, put it on the calendar. Schedule it for yourself. You will feel better about it. It might feel weird at first, but it does become easier. It does become, I've said it, I don't know how many times today, second nature. Scheduling lunch with my husband on a Friday, even that if that means I ran and grabbed Chick-fil-A and he has 20 minutes to sit with me and just chit chat for a little bit before his next meeting, that is really important. That's connection, and that's important for a marriage, for a relationship, for myself, for him, whatever it is. So we put it in the calendar. I go and grab it so he can finish up work. He has a short amount of time. We sit for 20 minutes, we eat, and then he goes back off to work. But it's in the calendar. It's scheduled. And that might not sound romantic. It might not sound spontaneous. And no, it's not, but it works for us. And I hope that maybe it's something that you could put in your calendar and it will work for you. Maybe, like I said, you want to read that book. Schedule some time out. Put it on the calendar. Put an hour in your schedule for yourself to read that book. Get into it. Love it. I love audiobooks, so I don't schedule reading into my calendar, but I do put it in my car. So when I am driving around from appointment to appointment, I'm able to enjoy the book that I'm listening to and enjoying at the time while I drive around town. So let's talk about it again. Calendars, color code, use technology, use the alarms, make your life easier. Don't feel that you're on a rush all the time. Work backwards from that appointment time. Look at the day and work backwards. Give yourself the allotted time to not rush. It's not good for you. It causes too much stress. And as caretakers and mothers and wives, stress is one of the biggest proponents when it comes to your own self-health problems. There are studies on it. It shows what stress can do to your health. So let's try and make your life less stressful by making your scheduling and your calendars easier to work with. Like I said, alarms, you heard it, you saw it. This gives me the time to just not rush, not feel, because when I rush, I get anxious, I get snippy. I'm not the nicest person because I am so worried that I'm not going to get somewhere on time like I said I would. It's my own personal thing. It's me saying my time is more valuable than yours, which is not true. And I feel as if I've committed to something, and if I have the ability to get there, I'm going to get there on time. And like I said, also learn to say no. Don't schedule something if it's not important. Don't schedule something just because. If you have something already on the calendar that works and something else comes up that you might think is better, but then you have to give up something else because, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just for me. It was my time. It's okay. My family or this person is more important. That's not true. You are important. You need the time for yourself. So if an opportunity comes up to change an appointment, but you have something scheduled for yourself at the same time, don't say yes. Now, if it is dire, believe me, if it is dire that you change that appointment, then yes, do it. But if you don't really have to, don't do it. Enjoy your time, enjoy yourself, give yourself the grace to say, this time is for me. Put it in your schedule. Everybody will understand. And if they don't understand, then maybe they're not the people for you. Or maybe they need to schedule some time for themselves and reconnect with themselves and de-stress. So yeah, let's work backwards. Let's color code. Let's use technology. Let's use alarms. Let's all give ourselves some grace. I know we can get the calendars up to date. I know you can make it easier for yourself and not rush and not stress. Okay? All right. So I'll see y'all next time. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. All right? Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Sandwich Stories. I really hope you learned some new things and enjoyed it. If you did, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your sister, tell your dad, tell everybody you know to also listen. Maybe they'll learn some new things, how to help each other out, and find us at Sandwich Stories Podcast. Thanks so much.